What's up guys, and welcome to How to Handstand. Today I'm going to break down for you in detail how you can learn to handstand, how you can train for your handstand, what's the most efficient progressions at which level, how to identify and overcome limiting points, and in general, how to succeed with your handstand without setbacks and without frustration. The best thing about handstands is that it needs practically no equipment, allowing you to train wherever and whenever. The handstands is a complex full body skill that will require training. No one's gonna just come to the gym and pick up how to handstand. It's gonna take consistency and it's gonna take a little bit of hard work. Learning to handstand is not only gonna help you develop full body strength, but really full body strength, core strength and even leg strength. You're gonna increase your coordination, mind-muscle awareness, and especially you're gonna learn how to focus on yourself for a continuous and longer period of time. The handstand truly is one of the hardest bodyweight skills out there, but once mastered, it's gonna open doors for so many advanced calisthenic skills such as handstand walking, crawl, handstand push-ups, and of course, the one-arm handstand. My name is Coach Bachmann and I've spent the past 5 years teaching over 10,000 hours of handstands online and in person. All this time allowed me to gather enough knowledge and to test enough theories to map out in detail the precise journey of anybody who's trying to learn to handstand. Straight away, before we get started here, today is going to be a longer video. So I've time-stamped the video to make it simple for you to basically find the parts of the video that are most interesting for you. If throughout the video you run into any questions or you realize that there are things that are not described here, then please head down below, let me know in the comments, and I'm going to try to help you out as good as I can. You see, the big problem with people training handstands is that most people are not aware how to actually train for their handstands. Everybody thinks they know how to do a handstand, but most people lack progressions and a precise path. Now the beauty is, no matter at which stage of your handstand journey you're at, there is a precise path and there are precise progressions. Without precise progressions, you're gonna feel like you're hitting a wall and you're constantly in a plateau. I'm here today to make sure you don't end up like all of those people. I'm here to make sure you know exactly what to do and when to do it. The big bottleneck of handstands truly is that if you can't handstand, you cannot train handstands. Unless you're really good at freestanding handstands, there's absolutely no reason for you to be training freestanding handstands. You see, the thing is that if you can't hold your handstand yet without the wall every single time, then you're not really training handstands. You're training jumping up and falling down. You're doing squats, possibly deadlifts, at best some squat jumps, but no handstands at all. Your training becomes truly useless. Instead, leave your ego at the door and go train at the wall. Now I know, training at the wall is boring, but the sooner that you understand that the wall is not a punishment, but really a reward for you to get better, the sooner your handstands will get better and the faster your handstands will get better. The wall is going to offer you a wide variety of advantages. Number one, you're going to be actually able to monitor how much time you actually spend training handstands. Progressive overload is key. You want to be able to do a little bit more in every single workout. But if only 1 out of 10, or some days 3 out of 10, or then 7 out of 10, and then again only 1 out of 10 handstands actually are a handstand, it's absolutely impossible to monitor and to plan your workouts. Every single athlete that learns to handstand basically goes through 5 stages. Stage number 1 is building strength. You're basically building the ability to even spend time upside down, to get upside down onto your hands. The goal of this stage is basically going to be to do chest to wall handstand. Stage number 2 is going to be building alignment and technique. You're utilizing this ability of being upside down and you're investing into your line, into your technique to make your handstand more efficient. You now theoretically don't need that strength anymore that you used initially to get upside down. Stage 2 is going to be all about wall drills. Stage number 3 are floats. You're starting to leave the wall. You're going to experience your first freestanding handstands close to the wall. Nothing in the open space is happening just yet. Stage number 4 is going to be finally the freestanding handstand. Everything that you've learned comes together into your first freestanding handstand. You're starting to be able to get up and out of your handstand with ease. Step number 5 is learning that the wall actually was your best friend. You go back to the wall because you want to reinvest into yourself, because you're ready to take your handstands to the next level and invest into more advanced positions and skills. Now obviously there are many ways of how a handstand can work, and some of the, let's call them more useless coaches, are actually going to tell you just simply do whatever works for you, because clearly what your body chooses to do is going to be the best option. If we look at sports where there's a bigger financial interest, that are well researched, say basketball, Olympic weightlifting or sprinting, we're going to quickly realize that if you look at the Olympics, the World Championships, or really just national championships, all of the winning athletes have pretty much exactly the same and very precise technique. Possibly this precise technique is slightly adjusted towards their personal body and their personal criteria. Now with handstands, there's no difference. There is a technique that is more efficient, healthier, more sustainable, and simply better. I'll be teaching you here this precise technique and nothing else. When we're looking at the handstand, obviously the first thing we see is that our hands are on the floor. You want to have your hands about shoulder width or a tiny little bit more than shoulder width apart. Gentlemen, your shoulders are probably this wide, not this wide, okay? We're not kidding anybody here. None of us is Sam Sulek. Keep your hands shoulder width apart. You want to make sure your fingers are pointing straight towards the front. Don't externally rotate, don't internally rotate them. Straight towards the front. Spread your fingers wide. You want to create a big surface to stand on. Picture two athletes. One athlete has toothpicks for the hands, the other one, big plates. It's going to be very easy to imagine that the guy with the big plates as hands is going to be able to stand on the hands so much easier. And no, you do not have to curl your fingers on the floor. Yes, you want to push your fingers into the floor, but really, only if you have very flexible hands or your floor is quite slippery, your fingers are going to automatically curl. But the fact that you have or that you don't have spider fingers when doing your handstand is not going to be a reason why your handstand is not working. Moving up from the hands, we get to the elbows. Your elbows have to be fully locked and the pit of your elbow should be about 45 degrees towards the front. That's essential. Don't bend your elbows. Why? We're going to get to that in a second. Moving up from the elbows, we get to the shoulders and to the head. Your handstand is won and lost in your shoulders. And now here's the thing. Social media and especially Instagram has taught us the most important thing about our handstand is getting this straight line. So when you go onto your beach vacation and you're taking a beautiful handstand at the beach next to the palm tree, your handstand can be straighter than that palm tree. And that's a noble goal, and I get it. But it's not really the goal that's going to get you to a good, healthy and controlled handstand fastest. And in general, that's not your best handstand. Much more important than opening your shoulders into a straight line is elevating the shoulders. You want to elevate your scapula. You want to push as tall as possible to cover your ears with your shoulders. Basically, so you cannot hear anybody talk about your handstand when you're doing handstands. Elevating the scapula is going to come with a variety of benefits. Number one, your shoulder is a ball and socket joint, just like your hip. With the shoulder depressed, meaning our shoulders down, meaning what we don't want to do in our handstand, we're basically standing on a small bone inside our shoulder called the acromion. Now, handstands are not a dynamic force. You're not going to rip this acromion, but you will bruise it. If we elevate the scapula, we're basically rotating this whole structure. We're not standing on this small bone anymore, you're standing on this whole structure. And it's there where you're going to have stability and you're going to be protected from injuries. The problem is, getting up there initially is going to be hard work. You're going to have to develop specific strength, specific coordination, and some of us even very specific mobility. If your shoulders are depressed and you're standing on your hands for a longer period of time, for example, you're doing the wall handstand exercises with your nose touching the wall, nicely sucking into your shoulders. Tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and your shoulders are sore. You're going to think, damn, I did Coach Bachmann's workout, I am sore, I'm already getting better, I'm going to keep doing it. Now that's great for me, don't get me wrong, because you're going to come back and continue to train with me. The problem is that you're not really going to get stronger in your shoulders the way that we need it. So just the fact that you're sore on your shoulders doesn't mean you're getting better. You need to focus on scapular elevation, on getting tall, so you can basically get sore now, so very soon in the foreseeable future, you're not going to get sore anymore. There's one more essential benefit of elevating the scapula. Picture your shoulder like a triangle or like a pyramid. If you are depressed, your shoulder can move left and right, internally rotate, externally rotate, there's movement everywhere. The more that you're going to elevate your scapula, the more you're pushing the shoulder up into the tip of this triangle and this pyramid, the less room for movement there is. And all the way up here, honestly, you cannot internally rotate, you cannot externally rotate, it's not going to move. So really, pushing as tall as possible is going to make things so much easier because you have so much less to think about. You can only elevate your scapula if you're number one, your elbows are locked, and number two, you're actually looking at your hands. As soon as you put your nose against the wall, you're automatically going to sink into your shoulders and actually just push them open into flexion. So, long story short, lock your elbows, look at your hands, and push out tall. Moving up from the shoulders, we get to the core. Many people say that if you have a banana handstand, all you have to do is do a bunch more sit-ups to fix your banana handstand. Unfortunately, it couldn't be further from the truth. You have to focus on fixing your shoulders and pushing out tall because the back only arches due to the angle created at your shoulders from sinking in. Your core doesn't really have to be any stronger when you're doing a handstand than compared to what I'm doing right now, gesturing left and right. Your core is still only the connection between your shoulders and your lower body. The issue in the handstand is that you're upside down. You have to develop new core coordination. You have to learn how to use your core upside down. It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's going to come, I promise it to you. Core strength is most likely not your main limiting point right now. Moving up from the core, we get to the legs. Glutes, quads, calf, everything has to be engaged, everything has to be tight. Your legs do make up half of your body. No matter how tight your shoulders and core are, if your legs wobble around like half-boiled spaghettis, it's not going to work out for us. When it comes to the feet, I like to see pointed feet. It's pretty and it's going to help you engage your legs more. If you're completely against the system because you hate gymnastics, I respect that. It's rock and roll of you. But if you don't want to point your feet, you have to fully flex them. Anything else in between, if your feet are wobbling around, so are your calves, so are your quads, so are your glutes, and you're losing. When you first start out training handstands, the freestanding handstand really shouldn't be your goal. Instead, you should see where you're currently at and identify the next direct goal. See it like this. January 1st came along and you said, this year is going to be the year where I learn to handstand. My goal is the freestanding handstand. Now that's a huge goal that's possibly very far away, and especially it's only one single goal. You're going to be training all year long, you're working hard, and then maybe you'll reach your goal and you can celebrate once, or you might not reach your goal and you feel like a complete failure. You've accomplished a lot. You've trained, you've gotten stronger, more aligned, more flexible, you build coordination, but you didn't reach that actual goal, so you feel like a complete failure. Instead, here's what we can do. We set lots of little small milestone goals. Every week, every month, you get something to celebrate, and if for whatever reason you don't reach your very high final goal, you've reached so many milestones that you really know what you did for yourself and what got better. The first major goal in anyone's handstand journey is going to be getting weight onto the hands. Obviously, we're going to start in the push-up position. A push-up already is in some way a handstand. You're standing on your hands with minimal weight. From here, you're going to walk your feet in a bit. You end up in a pike stand, putting more weight onto your hands and onto your shoulders. Elevate your feet, elevate a pike stand, elevate your feet further, and we end up in the L handstand. The L handstand on the box is the very first major goal. It's going to bring you from a push-up very close towards your very first handstand. With the first major milestone checked and out of the way, we make our way up to the wall. The goal now is going to be the chest-to-wall handstand. The chest-to-wall handstand truly is the ultimate exercise for you to learn your handstand. It's going to be great for alignment and for strength, and there's a huge variety of exercise progressions and variations that are going to be so very beneficial for you. In the chest-to-wall handstand, we want to come as close as possible to the wall. This is going to make this chest-to-wall handstand as close to the real handstand experience as we can possibly be. The problem of coming close to the wall, especially when you're at the beginning of your journey, is that a close to the wall chest-to-wall handstand is quite scary. But you gotta see it this way. The closer you come to the wall, physically the easier your handstand will get, as your handstand is gonna be vertically aligned. When you're in a bigger angle, you have significantly more weight that you have to manage with your chest and with your core. In your chest-to-wall handstand, your elbows have to be locked, your scapula needs to be elevated, you need to look at your hands, and nothing but your feet should touch the wall. Not your ribs, not your hips, not your quads, not your knees, nothing but the feet. To get started with the chest-to-wall handstand, we're going to use the crawl progression. The beauty of this crawl progression is that we're quite close to the L handstand on the box that we've already mastered in the previous step. From this crawl position at the wall, we're going to practice crawl push-outs, single leg isolations, and finally, wall walks. Traditional handstand coaches are going to tell you to just go to the wall and hold the chest-to-wall handstand for endurance to build strength and all of that. Honestly, not a good idea. Not very beneficial, extremely boring, and honestly quite painful, and your risk of injuries is going to be high. Instead, we're going to focus on movement-based exercises. The essential progressions to master here are going to be single leg tuck slides, regular tuck slides, 45 handstand single leg tuck slides, the half slide away, and of course, single leg isolation. The goal of all of these exercises now is not just to build strength and to build endurance, but especially to build coordination, to get a feeling for your own body upside down in the space. A good trick here can be to film yourself from the side. But before you look at the video, get a clear image in your head of what you think you just did, and then compare this video with your actual performance. You're going to learn really quickly that what you think is straight up is actually not straight up. And you're going to be able to correct not just your position, but especially the way that you feel your positions upside down. A popular way of training at the wall is training with the back towards the wall, and if you know anything about me or my handstand coaching, you know that for me that's an absolute no-go. Training back to the wall can feel comfortable, but it's not really gonna help you, and it's most of the time only gonna make things worse. You see, here's the thing. When you're standing with your back towards the wall in a handstand, your feet have to reach over to reach the wall. And that means that we have to arch. Because you're a beginner, your shoulders are automatically gonna close because they wanna protect themselves from that pressure. So every single time you're getting up with your back against the wall, you're doing a banana handstand. Now your argument might be that you're only using the wall to basically kick yourself back every time you fall over because you want to practice standing on your hands and you don't want to practice falling out of your hands. And I get this, and this, again, it feels like a very convenient thing, but here's the problem with that. You're never going to learn for how long you can actually fight for your handstand before it's time to bail out. Two things are going to happen here. Number one, you're going to build a habit of, without the wall, then to just come out right away from your handstand, which means you're going to lose a massive potential of your handstand. And number two, you're lacking such a huge part of handstand training. The beauty of handstands is actually understanding for how long you can fight for your handstand before it's game over. Don't cut yourself short. Chances are high that at this point of your journey, you're starting to encounter one, or possibly a few limiting points. One major limiting point is wrist pain. It's always going to hold you back from standing on your hands more. One thing you got to understand is that wrist pain when we're doing handstands, when we're training handstands, is quite normal. Everybody encounters it. What you even more need to understand that it shouldn't happen all the time. It is not good to have wrist pain, and it is not something that should become a normal part of your routine. Here's what happens. Your wrist, there's not a lot going on inside of your wrist. It's a bunch of bones and ligaments. There's not a lot of space, and there's really no muscle inside of your wrist, right? When we're doing a handstand, they get pushed together, meaning there's even less space. If you're doing a bad handstand with your shoulders slid towards the front, the angle decreases inside of your wrist, the angle gets sharper, and there's even less space. Now here's what happens when we push something together inside of the body. We create inflammation. Now look at this. We have a space where there's not a lot of space. Due to not a lot of space, we create inflammation. What's happening? There's even less space. It's kind of like the snowball that's rolling down the hill. You're gonna have more and more wrist pain because the inflammation is only gonna get more. There's one very simple and easy solution to that. Simply train less. I know that's the last thing that you want to hear from me or from a medical professional, or really ever. But you're gonna have to make adjustments to your training. Your wrists will take some time to adapt to the pressure of handstands, but the beauty is that your body will adapt towards pretty much any pressure that you put on it. You just need to allow it more time. Solutions are to train less, meaning your overall volume and frequency needs to be a little bit less, and you can hold your sets a little bit shorter, because as your set goes on, or especially as your training session goes on towards the second half of your, say, 40-minute session, when you get more tired, the quality of your handstands decreases, and with this pressure on your wrists increases. Towards the end of your session, when you start to get more tired, make your handstand sets shorter. Instead of doing 1 times 4 reps, do 2 times 2 reps. The second limiting point that you're probably encountering by now is a lack of shoulder strength. This one is going to manifest itself pretty drastically when you're doing wall walks, or really any kind of chest-to-wall handstand exercise. If you're walking up the wall, about to set yourself up for the drill, but you're already shaking in the arms, scared you might collapse onto your face, it's very clear your shoulders are not strong enough just yet. Building strength is one of the most researched topics in the world. I have a podcast episode that focuses exactly on how to build strength. Go and check that out if you need to, but really, it's simple for you. You take a step back. Whatever you work on right now, you work on this for the next 2 to 4 weeks whilst focusing on building additional strength, and you're gonna see 4 weeks from now, it's gonna look completely different. Another limiting point that you might be encountering is a lack of mobility. Overhead mobility can of course be a big problem. If you are not able to get your hands overhead into a somewhat close to straight line, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to elevate the shoulders. And please remember, you're not just trying to get your hands overhead with a chin on the chest. No, you need to look at your hands and elevate. If you are not able to do that, that's not a reason that you should stop training handstand or even that you should stop progressing. You can train your handstand with a slight banana handstand. I even encourage you to do so. But in the same time, you have to invest into the static and dynamic shoulder stretches in combination with activation work, with scapular elevation work. Before every single session, and even before every single handstand, you can get a little static shoulder stretch in. Another quite typical limiting point is bent elbows, meaning your elbows don't fully lock. And at this point, you have to do a little bit of self-searching and basically analyzing your own body to figure out, why do your elbows not straighten? Reason number one could be a lack of strength. You're simply not pushing them through. It's easy to determine that. If you are able in this position here with most of your weight on your knees to fully lock out your elbows, but the more weight you put onto your hands, they begin to bend more and more and more, you're simply lacking strength or even mild muscle connection, meaning you're not able to properly focus on your elbows as the difficulty of exercises increases. Then of course there's people who cannot fully straighten one or even both elbows. This could be due to a past injury or simply due to stiffness. If this is due to stiffness, I don't recommend to you to start stretching your elbow. That's crazy and unreasonable, and you're most likely going to make more damage than good. Instead, try rolling, massaging, and stretching your biceps, as that's ultimately the one that's going to bend your elbow, and consider going to see a good physical therapist who's going to be able to help you on your elbows. If your elbows are bent due to a past injury, a medical professional is the only person who can help you, and I truly, please ask you, don't try to forcefully straighten your elbows, especially after an injury. If you have one elbow that's bent where the other one is not bent, elevate that one side of the bent elbow with a piece of wood or something like this, simply so your shoulders come back to a perfectly straight and level height, so your back can stay straight and you're not putting uneven pressure onto your spine. Last but not least, of course, a big limiting point is also going to be fear. Being scared of the handstand is something that's completely normal, and most people at some point are scared of handstands. And I get it, handstands are scary and handstands can be quite overwhelming. Here's the thing. I'm not one to tell you to push past fear. I don't necessarily believe in this. I think if your body is scared to do something, your body might know something that we are not quite aware of, and you should listen to your body. Of course, sometimes we have to get it together and push a little bit into fear. But big picture, when it comes to handstand, there's no reason to do so. You're not driving on the highway in LA. Instead, take a step back, reinforce, get stronger, get better aligned, get your head into the game, what you're actually doing, and you're gonna realize simply by improving the way you're doing something, it's gonna become significantly less scary. Now, of course, learning to bail is gonna be highly beneficial as well for you to have the confidence to not be scared of falling out of your handstand. The best way of getting good at bailing is practicing exactly that. Practicing bailing, or in other words, practicing basic floor acrobatics to get more confident inside of your body and to trust your body that it knows what to do in the moment of panic. A couple things that I want you to try for this is number one going to be the bunny hop. You're going to start with your hands on the floor facing towards the front. You're on one side of your hands and you're simply going to jump your hips back and forth around your hands. Once you get more comfortable with this, the jump can get a little bit higher. Step number two is going to be a bunny hop where the second hand is internally rotated, so your fingers basically point towards the hand that's already on the floor. This is going to allow you to make the jump a little bit bigger and a little bit longer. The last step of really the floor progressions on how to bail is going to be to delay the second hand. So you want to place the hand only where it's going to be, not somewhere back here, close to the floor. You want to first jump and then put the hand on the floor. This can be a very tiny difference of just doing this. But then over time, you're going to get bigger and this hand is going to come to the floor later and later. Really all you're doing here is a bailing specific tiny little cartwheel close to the floor. Get good at this, get comfortable with this, and you're going to see that you're less scared of bailing every single time. Now of course we can take this up a notch and practice it at the wall. For this of course you have to be somewhat comfortable with the chest to the wall handstand, but you don't have to come super close for that one for now. You're basically going to walk up the wall, and the first thing that you'll do is you're going to take the foot that's going to bail down and you're simply going to place it on the floor. Now of course we can make this a little bit more dynamic and a little bit bigger where you push off the wall slightly. The second step, once you're comfortable with this, is going to be to take the hand off the leg that's going to bail out, internally rotate it by 90 degrees and put it slightly further away from the wall. You're then going to take that same leg and simply step it down to the floor. Let's see it one more time. We step and rotate the hand, take the leg and step down to the floor. Now let's make it a little bit bigger and a little bit more dynamic. One foot is already off the wall. We're going to take the step with the hand and then with the foot. Step and step. Now the final step for this is going to be simply to add a little bit more momentum and to energize it a little bit. Make it a little bit more dynamic. Make it a little bit more realistic of how it would be when you actually do fall out of your handstand. So once again, starting in a chest to wall handstand. One foot is already off the wall, and I'm actually going to use this wall foot to give myself a tiny little bit of momentum to really mimic, to simulate how the actual wall handstand drop is gonna be. So from here, I push, I step, and I'm out. Get comfortable with this. The more comfortable you are gonna be with this, the less scared you're gonna be of falling. At the end of the day, this is just a cartwheel. You can use these progressions to get good at this, or you can simply go out to a gymnastics class or anything like this and practice gymnastics, floor acrobatics with your own body. You're gonna gain confidence, you're gonna gain control over your body, and especially you're gonna gain trust that your body is gonna react in the way that you need it to when it needs to. Freestanding handstands really aren't what people expect most of the time. They're not about balance, they're about control. It's not about trying to find this beautiful golden line of alignment, of perfect balance where things are just smooth and easy. You see, when you're standing on your feet and you're lifting something, you're gonna have your weight in front, in your toes. You're gonna take control. As soon as this weight drops towards the back, you have to balance with your whole body. You're really gonna have a little heart attack because you're scared that you're gonna fall over. Now here's the thing. Of course, when you're standing on your hands, it's gonna be exactly the same thing with one major difference. Your hand doesn't have a proper heel, which means if the weight drops towards the back, you're in a lot of trouble. But let's start easy. If I'm standing on my hands, the weight drops towards the front, I push my fingertips into the floor like I'm now pushing my toes into the floor, and I push myself back. If I'm falling this way, all that I could possibly do is bend my elbows. For a very short period of time, the elbows can bend, I can catch myself and push myself back up. But big picture, as soon as the weight drops towards the side of our stomach, it's game over. Which means we have to constantly stay a little bit fingertip heavy. Now when you're in a handstand, you're standing on your hands. You're gonna be falling in a certain direction. Now it's gonna take your brain, your entire body a little while to understand in which direction you're actually falling. You progress this, you understand where you're falling, you start to push into the floor to push yourself back up. Hopefully you are able to push the body back. You're pushing your body back towards this perfect line that you wanna be in. Chances are high you're either pushing too far or too little, which means at the end of this maneuver to fix your position, you're still gonna be falling. And really, that's gonna be your handstand forever at all times. You're never in a state of stillness. You're always in the state of constantly falling in one direction, in the other, pushing back, trying to save your handstand. Over time, with more training, you're gonna be faster at detecting in which direction you're falling, and your reactions are gonna be earlier, and they're gonna be more precise. Over time, you're gonna be able to create the illusion of perfect stillness, but you'll actually never be still. Now this freestanding handstand can basically have 4 different types of alignment that can work for us. That will be balanced enough to stay up. The first one, the desirable one, of course, is just a simply straight line. Feet, hips, shoulders aligned on top of the center of the hands. Option 2 and 3 has your shoulders sliding towards the front a bit. Option 2 is your shoulders slide towards the front and your back arches into a banana handstand. That's the one we all fear and the one we all try to get rid of. Option number 2 is shoulders slide towards the front, yet the back stays perfectly straight. You're gonna have to pike at the hips quite heavily to make up for this change of weight. Number 2 and 3 are not great for your wrists. Your chances of injuring your wrists are increasing drastically and you wanna be quite careful. We have one more option, option number 4, and that's your shoulders sliding in the opposite direction, basically towards your armpits. Your back is going to arch naturally, automatically, to make up for this change of weight. You're gonna end up in a position that's closer towards a hollow back handstand. Looks cool, can work for the handstand, but your risk of injuries in your back and in your shoulders increases quite a lot as pressure increases a lot. The issue with those 3 mistakes is that you cannot just focus on fixing one thing at a time. You always have to fix your shoulders and your hips simultaneously. If your shoulder position increases by 10%, your hip position also has to improve by 10%. If you only fix one, you're gonna end up with way too much weight on one side and you're gonna fall out. The hardest part of the freestanding handstand is and will forever remain getting up into the handstand. It is so much harder than the actual freestanding handstand that is straight up unfair. You see, you have to do a dynamic movement into a static position that you're not comfortable with. For now, our goal needs to be to basically cut out this mount because let's be honest, we have 2 options. Option number 1, we spend hours and hours training this tuck up or this kick up to make it super precise to hit exactly the position we need to be in. Let's say this will take us 100 hours. We could also take these 100 hours and invest them into training handstands. If we're gonna continue to train handstands, your handstands are gonna get better anyways. So with those 100 hours put into your handstands are now so good that your mount, your kick up, your tuck up doesn't have to be precise anymore. So really spending this time at perfecting your kick up at this point of your handstand journey is kind of a waste of time, because the super crazy precision that you gain here, you're not going to need a couple weeks from now. So instead, we're going to do it a little bit differently. We cut the amount out completely from the handstand training. We go back to the wall. I know it's boring, but bear with me. And we're going to train our handstands close to the wall. Now there's basically going to be 3 stages that we go through here at the wall. The first one is going to be the slide away. It's just the best skill that there is at the wall to build the strength and awareness to fix and catch your freestanding handstand every time. The second part is going to be the wall takeoff. Of course, here you can only start coming further away from the wall to get a little bit more of that feeling of the freestanding handstand. You master this one, you might think, I think that's it, I'm ready for the freestanding handstand, I'm ready for my mounts, but no. Right now you're just good enough to hold your freestanding handstand, but not to jump into the freestanding handstand. So you have to take it one step further, and you want to get comfortable with transitions at the wall. Only then you're truly going to benefit from training without the wall. Anything before that is a bit of a waste of time, and it's really just you trying to maybe have some fun, which is great, or to feed your ego, or to think that you might found a shortcut that, let me tell you, it doesn't exist. Now that we're finally ready to train without the wall and be able to truly benefit from this no wall training, there's really only one question left to ask. Tuck up versus kick up to a handstand. And I know what you're thinking. You're obviously saying kick up to a handstand because you can't hold a tuck yet, so what is the point of even practicing a tuck up to a handstand? But hear me out. I don't want you to train the kick up to a handstand. I want you to focus on the tuck up. It's going to be more beneficial, it's going to be significantly more consistent, and it's going to be much, much easier. Because here's the key. We're actually not holding the tuck handstand. We're just using the tuck handstand to align the already aligned hands and shoulders with the hips and to shoot up into the straight handstand. The problem with the kick up to handstand is that there's significantly more room for error, meaning your kick up to handstand might never be 10 out of 10 times perfectly consistent. You have to be more mobile, you have to be much more coordinated, and all in all, it is just significantly harder. Just trust me on this one. Instead, focus on the tuck up to handstand. No matter which mount you will ever practice, key is gonna be that your weight is already in the fingers. Before you even leave the floor, before you even think about leaving the floor, you have to be fingertip heavy, so you're already as close as possible towards your handstand position. And if you're doing a tuck jump to handstand, shoulders on top of the hands, all you do is align the hips and shoot straight up. Now you know how to do handstands, and really by now you know how to get there. What you don't know yet is how to train for your handstands. Every single one of your handstand sessions obviously has to start with a warm-up. When training for handstands, this warm-up part of your sessions, it's really going to be key for your success. For many reasons that's so. One of them, of course, is going to be injury prevention. Your wrists, your shoulders, you want to prepare them well to make sure you don't injure them, as we are using them a lot and not always in the best positions since we're only learning how to handstand. Number 2, this warm-up is going to actively help you with improving your line. We're going to be doing specific drills for your shoulders, for your core, that are going to help you build mind-muscle connection and coordination that you're going to use then once you get upside down to simply have an easier training. And last but not least, simply going through this warm-up every single day is already going to be a great part of your training that's going to improve not just your handstands, but your overall quality of life, as your body, your back, everything will simply feel better and be healthier. Once your warm-up is completed, the actual structure of your training, of course, is also important. You always want to make sure you start with your technical training. Precise movements that you're currently working on need to come first. Once done with this, you're going to go into handstand-specific conditioning, maybe some longer exercises that are more endurance-focused, before then moving into more general conditioning, shoulder conditioning, those kind of things. If you are training other things in your life, say weightlifting, volleyball, no matter what it is, I would always recommend to try to do your handstand training first. Because as soon as you're tired, doing handstands gets very, very difficult and extremely challenging. Over the past years, the best progress that I've seen in athletes is when they train 3 to 4 times per week for about 40 minutes. Honestly, if you're learning a wall handstand or you're taking it off the wall, this is going to be the sweet spot. This is the perfect time. It's not too much, it's not too little. It's enough frequency to actually get better, yet you still have enough time throughout your week to recover. Very important at this point is also to talk about expectation management. The handstand journey is going to be a little bit longer than what most people expect. It does take quite a bit of training, skill, strength, coordination to actually get good at handstands. Plus there's the entire fear factor and everything. I cannot stress it enough. don't see the freestanding handstand or the one-arm handstand or whatever it is as your one ultimate goal. Instead, set yourself as many as possible little milestones so you have something to celebrate at the end of every week or at least at the end of every month. Of course, there are other things that you can do in order to continue to train your handstands when, for example, your wrists get too tired. Forearm stands are often overlooked, but are actually highly beneficial. Now, the first thing you gotta say here is that forearm stands are gonna be more difficult for people with tight lats, right? If you're not able to get your hands overhead with bent elbows, they're more challenging. But if you have tight lats, training forearm stands might be extra beneficial for you. Forearm stands are a great way of practicing scapular elevation and core stability without involving the wrists. You're one joint closer to the floor, which means balance becomes significantly easier. In general, if you're training leg choreography or if you're trying to figure out some leg coordination things, forearm stands can be absolutely key. The one thing that's really important for me in a forearm stand is that you try to mimic the handstand as closely as possible. Look at the floor, elevate your scapula fully so your head doesn't touch the floor. In an ideal world, you're gonna get a perfectly straight line, not on top of your elbows, but just slightly in front of your elbows. Other great things to add to your routine are, of course, calisthenics, bodyweight style conditioning for your shoulders and for your core. They're gonna be beneficial for everybody. Learning a pike push-up, learning a handstand push-up, these kind of things, of course, are gonna be greatly beneficial for you to be able to not just balance your handstand, but really to force the control into your handstand. But especially if you're not super strong right now, doing gymnastic style conditioning is gonna be key for you. Forearm planks, rocking boat abs, all of those kind of things are gonna help you so much. Also really important to remember is that handstands is not a full body routine. It's not even a proper, well-balanced pushing workout. You're only pushing overhead with your arms locked out, which means that you have to still invest into full body fitness in order to keep a well-rounded and healthy physique. That means not just pulling in a vertical and a horizontal plane, but also pushing forward and upwards. Please stay fit. You cannot only do handstands. This might work well for you for half a year or an entire year, but eventually you're gonna end up injured. And that's it. That's all I had to share with you guys today, and I believe it was quite a lot. If you've paid proper attention, you truly know how to do your handstands. If you want to learn even more, I can offer 3 things for you. Number 1, there's a podcast episode here out on my YouTube channel that's really gonna teach you even more into planning your workouts and building your own routine when training handstands, focusing especially on how to start training handstands at home. Number 2, down in the description below, you're gonna find a link. You can follow this link and work your way through an in-depth customization to receive a free and fully customized workout right into your inbox. And last but not least, of course, I do have an online course called How to Handstand. The course is broken up into 4 stages where we're gonna work on all the things that we've done here in significantly more detail. Every single workout is customized towards the smallest detail towards your current level, meaning we take into account your wrist mobility, shoulder mobility, upper body strength, all of these kind of things. The workouts are built up from an exercise library of over 300 exercises. They be filmed professionally in a studio. Additionally, you're also gonna get instant access to my knowledge base where you can learn in detail every single thing that matters when training handstands. Honestly, the program is great. I am personally super proud of it, and I'm super proud of all the students that have worked through the program and have gotten great results. Head over to my website and check out the testimonials on this page as they truly speak for themselves. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for training with me, and especially thank you for training handstand. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and give it a follow to my channel. If you think this video could be beneficial for your friends, and I am really hoping you have lots of friends who train handstands with you, then send it their way. Help them out, and of course, it would also help me out. It's gonna allow me to create more content like this for you in the future. Make sure to let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions or what kind of content you want to see throughout the next months. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.